Soma Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Who was here yesterday for the first part of this conference? All right. Who wasn't here? If you don't, okay. Well, you might miss out on some of the points being made because they're supposed to build up on what was said yesterday. So yesterday I spoke on knowledge of reincarnation as described in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature, other parts of the Vedic literature. I explained that this is not simply some dogmatic faith. Now, the context in which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago is helpful to understand. Actually, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, also states that he spoke this knowledge many millions of years ago to the sun god. Imang vivasvate yogam prokta avyayam prokta. Imang vivasvate yogam imang proktam avyayam vivasvan manave praho manorikshvakave bravit. He said that I spoke this to the sun god. So this might sound very strange to people living in Paris in the year 2013, that this was spoken many millions of years ago, because we're taught at school that human beings didn't exist many millions of years ago. And belief in a sun god is just for primitive people. Anyway, we have many things to unlearn from what we learned at school. There's some guests came, offer them a seat. They're in and out. That's what the whole conference is about. We're all in and out. That's reincarnation. You've entered this room and you will leave this. Actually, it's a shop, isn't it? So in the same way, you enter a body and you leave a body. So before you leave this place, you should learn how to leave the body in such a way that you don't get another body. But they presume that they have more important things to do. Anyway, I was saying that Krishna said to Arjuna, his student, his disciple, that he had spoken this knowledge. Imang vivasvate yogam proktavanaham avyayam. I spoke this knowledge to the sun god, and that would be going back many millions, billions of years ago. And Arjuna was surprised to hear this, because Krishna and Arjuna were about the same age, and they were both about 120 years old at this time. At that time, people generally used to live longer lives, contrary to the modern idea that now by modern medicine we're living longer lives. We'll find also in the Old Testament descriptions of many people living hundreds of years. And even in India today you'll see yogis who, by the length of their hair, you can understand it must have taken hundreds of years to grow that long. So Arjuna was surprised, and he asked Krishna that, well, you're the same age as me and I'm not millions of years old, so how is that possible that you spoke millions of years ago to the sun god? And Krishna described to him, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjana. Both you and I have had many births. Atanya hang veda saravarni. I can remember all of them. The context of the Bhagavad Gita it was actually spoken on a battlefield. And clearly many people were about to get killed. It was before the battle started. So Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all-knowing, he had taken the role of the chariot driver of Arjuna. And Arjuna had killed many people throughout his life. That was his duty to do so. He was a very righteous person, but from birth he'd been trained to kill evildoers who otherwise would kill non-evildoers. So although Arjuna had killed many people, he never killed anyone outside the laws of dharma. Now, due to the complex situation that had arisen, Arjuna was lined up to fight against loved persons, relatives, his gurus, and he told Krishna that I can't fight in this situation. To kill people who are our own swajanam, he used this term, our own people. No good can come of this. And Krishna replied to these apparently very pious-sounding words by scolding Arjuna, chastising, and he told Arjuna something which, on the surface of it, seemed to not make any sense. He said that na tvevaham jatu nasang na tvang neme janadipaha. He said that all these kings assembled here for fighting, none of them will ever cease to exist. Neither I nor you nor anyone present here was ever born, and no one will ever die. Now, this doesn't seem to make any sense, does it? Because we're all born. So Krishna went on to explain that, what he meant by that. He described that dehinosmin yatha dehi. He differentiated between the body and the person within the body. The body consists of various chemicals, but the person is not the chemicals. So Krishna explained, dehinosmin yatha dehi kaumarang yovanang jara. We see that the body changes from childhood to youth to old age. Yesterday you told me that you are 67 years old. Do you still have photos of you at 6 or 7 years old? Does anyone have any photos of themselves at 6 or 7 years old? You have photos, yeah. So not here. Now you're not 6 or 7 years old. You're not 67 years old either. So if we see that photo, the body has changed. Obviously the body has changed. And according to modern medical science, all the chemicals in the body that are there now, after 7 years, you'll have a completely different set of chemicals. So, someone who is, let me see, I'm 56 years old. That means I've been through 8 sets of chemicals. This body is 56 years. So practically reincarnation is going, the body is changing, the body is reincarnated. Now, the body that this body, when it was 7 years old, all the chemicals have changed from that. But I am the same person. So what is it that stays the same? Well, we could say that it's the mind, but the mind changes much more quickly than the chemicals. Practically every 7 nanoseconds, the mind is always changing. Which is one reason why yogis, they try to still the mind. Anyway, that's another point. So, what is it that is constant, that we can say this is the same person? If I was to meet... Actually, one of my sisters lives in Paris. I didn't meet her for about 40 years. So, if we were to meet, then I might not recognize her. She might not recognize me. But it's the same person, even though the bodies have changed. So what is it who is the person actually? So from this teaching of Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the person stays constant, even though the body changes all the time. So the person is the soul. So, dehino svinyata dehe kumarang yovananjara tata. Next, after changing from childhood to youth to old age, the next change is called death. And in Sanskrit there are several words for death. The word used in this verse is dehantara, which means dehanta prapti, which means attaining another body. And another example is given in Bhagavad Gita. Just like we have clothes that cover the body. When they get old and worn out, we throw them out. Or nowadays you buy clothes that look old and worn out even though they're new. But anyway, the example is given that when the clothes, they no longer perform their function, you change them. So in the same way, the body is a covering for the soul. And when it gets old and worn out, it gets changed for you. How does this work? That's also explained in Bhagavad Gita. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, I quoted that one verse yesterday. Karmana daiva netrena jantur dehopapataye. We are changed from one body to another under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and His representatives. According to our activities that we have performed and according to our desire. We have many desires, and in various bodies we get the opportunity to fulfill those desires. For instance, someone might like to eat and eat and eat and eat. They're a glutton. Gluton. So, but the human body is not very suitable for eating and eating and eating and eating, for being gluttonous. You get sick quite soon. So a person who cultivates such desires is likely to be given the body of a pig in the next life, by which he can go on eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. People who like to eat meat, they are likely to get the body of a tiger or some other body like that. Someone who likes to sleep a lot, they could get the body of a bear. Many people, they have the desire to be a leader, but there's a limited number of people who can actually be leaders, because that's the way it is. So someone who wants to be a leader, they may not get the opportunity in this life, they might get it in a future life, not necessarily in a human form. They might be born as a chicken, and among all the chickens, they might be considered the best. So these are some of the ways in which the laws of karma work. There are many other important points to understand. Whatever we think of at the time of death will determine our immediate next birth. Yang yang vapisvaran bhavam tyajante kalevaram tan tame vaite kauntaya satata bhava bhavitaha. This Krishna says, so we may think that, all right, so at the time of death I'll just think of something good and nice and I'll get that kind of body. But it doesn't work like that we can cheat the laws of nature. Because that which we tend to think of throughout our life, sada tad bhava bhavita, that will become the object of our thought at the time of death. And the kind of consciousness we develop, that will carry us to our next birth. So like that, if we develop a pig-like consciousness of wanting to eat all the time, then we can be born as a pig. If we develop a godly kind of consciousness, then we can take birth in a godly form. However, as Krishna points out in Bhagavad Gita, this whole process of dying, getting born, dying, getting born, dying, getting born, it's not a source of happiness, it is a source of distress. So, an intelligent person, understanding this, should try to come out of this situation. It makes no sense to try and be happy and enjoy in a situation in which we have to die. Please give a seat. Arrange some seat. So we are told there is a custom in many places, or used to be, that someone who is sentenced to capital punishment, the night before they are to be capitally punished, they're told that, well, whatever food you want to eat, we will provide it for you. So you can imagine that someone who the next morning they're scheduled to be hung or shot or electrocuted, they wouldn't be in the mood to eat a good meal. We have more seats, no? There's one seat here. Pass them out. There are more seats there. There are fans on that. Maybe we can put the fan on the table and liberate the seats. Liberate the seats. If we can't get liberated, at least the seats can get. So, if we think that if we know that we're going to be killed the next morning, then how can we enjoy anything the evening before? But we are all in that situation. We may not die tomorrow morning. We might die before that. But there will come a day in which the tomorrow of that day is the day that we have to die. So this is not very good. We're in a situation where we have to suffer. We all desire to be happy, but we are all condemned to capital punishment. Again and again and again. So the real purpose of life is to understand how to get free from this cycle of birth and death. To understand that, we have to understand who we are, where we are supposed to be going. By nature, we are all Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, conscious, and blissful. But in this material situation where we're born and die again and again, Our situation is asat, achit, nirananda. We're not in an eternal situation. We make plans, I will do this and that in the future, but we don't think the future, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and then we have to die. And then what after that? We don't plan for that future. We are conscious, but we do not know who we are. We don't know where we have come from and where we're going to. We don't know why we're suffering or how to get free from suffering. We desire happiness, but the happiness that we get in this world is meager. Very little. Just like people have to work 5 days a week, generally. When I was a child, I was told that now we're getting more technological advancement and in future people won't have to work. What a joke that was. Everyone will have so much leisure time, they won't know what to do with it. So most people in the world nowadays spend most of their life doing things that they don't want to do. And their so-called holiday is also not much fun. Especially this year because it's too hot. And some years it's raining all summer. But even if the weather is just nice, what would it be, just nice? 28 Celsius? Would that be nice? What is it? What's considered a nice temperature? 28 Celsius? No clouds. Some winds. Yeah, but then even then you have to drive in a 200-kilometer traffic jam to get to the coast and then share the beach with 200,000 other people. So it's very sad actually how people, they spend their whole life struggling to be happy, but they don't get much happiness, and even the happiness that they get, it's not much happiness. But by nature we are eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. That's why we don't like to die. We don't like to grow old. We want to acquire knowledge. We want to be happy. It is our nature to be eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. But in this material situation, we are in a situation where whatever situation we're in, we can't stay in it. Whatever body we get, we want to stay in it. Even if we get the body of a maggot, which is in some rotting food, we think, well, I don't know your language. You're supposed to be the translator. I'm not all knowledgeable. The maggot turns into a fly, crawls around in rotting food. And you see, the maggot, he doesn't want to leave that situation. If you want to get a hammer and kill the maggot, he'll try and run away. Whatever situation we're in, even if it's such a horrible situation as that of a maggot, we think, this is nice, I like it here. We become attached to that body. So, the human form of life is an opportunity to understand who we are actually. We are meant to live in spiritual existence. Spiritual existence means eternal, there's no death, which also means that there's no old age. There is a famous painting in the Sistine Chapel in Rome of God. There's a picture of God. He's a very old man with a very long beard. Because he created the world, that was a long time ago. So in the meantime he got very old and his beard grew very long. He's so busy throwing people into hell that he didn't have time to shave. And anyway, there's no shaving foam up there. So God created man and man created shaving foam. So this is actually a very poor guess about the nature of God. This is a very poor guess about the nature of God. God is eternal, He doesn't grow old. There's no old age in the spiritual world. So, in the spiritual world, there's no old age, there's no death, there's simply pure bliss. And we are supposed to live there. We're not supposed to live we don't really belong in this material world. To go to the spiritual world requires purification of consciousness. We are in this material world because we are trying to enjoy it. Shrotrang chakshu sparshrang cha rasanam ghanam eva cha adhishtaya manaschaya vishayanupasevate. We're trying to enjoy everything that we touch, taste, smell, feel and hear. But our constitutional position of Satchidananda, eternity, bliss and knowledge, is contingent on our position as servant of the supreme, eternal, blissful, knowledgeable personality of Godhead. We should teach the French people. Instead of égalité, liberté, fraternité, it should be éternité, conscience, and félicité. Félicité.
Éternité, conscience et félicité.
Félicité. So we're trying to enjoy this world, which means we're in competition with everyone else. That's why even though the French people have been talking about égalité, liberté, fraternité for how long now? 250 years almost. Yes. But it won't happen on the material platform because everyone's trying to get more for themselves. That's why socialism sounds like a very good idea. But it never works because someone gets more power and lords it over everyone else. So this spirit of trying to exploit the resources of the world for our own enjoyment binds us in the cycle of birth and death. When we understand that we are meant for serving the Supreme Lord, that we cannot be the controller, we cannot be the enjoyer, that we are insignificant beings, then we become qualified to enter the spiritual world. Now we may wonder how did we end up in this material world anyway? If our intrinsic nature is pure Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge and bliss. That's because the nature of spiritual existence, Satchidananda, that all centers around one principle of service in love. What is the highest truth? The highest truth is love. But in this material world, love can never be perfect. One reason is because it can never be eternal. One person may love another person, but they are separated by death. The example is given that in a river, various twigs may come together and go downstream, all joined together. So they'll go along together for some time, and then after some time they may hit a rock or just by the flow of the current, they separate, and then one twig goes into another group. So in the same way, in the river of time, we sometimes join with some people, then we separate and we join with other people. Another example is given that in a hotel, different people may stay for 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights. Some business people come to do business, they stay in a hotel. They meet some people, they make friends with them, but then again they separate. So love in this material world can never be perfect because it is broken by time. Another reason is because it's based on the body, but we are not the body. A mother loves her child because the child is produced from her body. Although, the relationship is only on the basis of the body. We see that young men and older men are attracted to young, beautiful women. Men fall in love with young, beautiful women. They don't fall in love with 70-year-old women.
Et les hommes ne tombent pas amoureux des femmes qui ont 70 ans.
Why is that? Actually, the 70-year-old woman is probably in many ways by the character more lovable than the 17-year-old girl. So much of what goes on in the name of love in this world is actually attraction to a bag of bones and muscles and blood with attractive skin wrapping. And if the packing doesn't look good, then people don't go for the product. We often find that people, they fall in love and then they fall out of love, which means that it was never really love in the first place. So real love should be eternal. And real love is a selfless emotion. And love cannot be legislated. Okay, you love this one. It doesn't work like that. A love is a natural attraction to someone because of their qualities. In the material world, that quality is either because this child is my child and I think I'm very nice, so I love my own child. Or we love a beautiful woman because of the bodily beauty. Or we become attracted to someone because they're rich or famous or powerful. So, in the spiritual existence, our natural existence is to love Krishna. Krishna is sometimes called God, but he's not that old guy in the sky with a long beard throwing people into hell. Krishna has all these spiritual qualities to attract everyone. Krishna is the most beautiful, but his beauty is not the beauty of skin and bone. His spiritual beauty is composed of transcendental Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge and bliss. Krishna is the most powerful, but he doesn't use that power to exploit people or crush them. Krishna is the most wealthy. He owns everything. He has all the qualities to attract everyone. He is lovable by his very nature. And because he's unlimited, he can have a full and complete loving relationship with every living being. So freedom from birth and death means to enter into our spiritual existence of pure eternal love with Krishna. And when we don't want to serve Krishna, then we have to come to the material world. Now we may think that, well, if Krishna is so attractive and lovable, why would anyone not want to love him? If Krishna is so lovable, then why would anyone not want to love him? It doesn't seem to make any sense. But love is voluntary. We cannot legislate it. If I bring a gun and stick it to your head and say, love me, you might say, okay, I love you. You might even do everything I tell you to do, tell you to say. But that would not be love. So this whole idea that we should fear God is not actually the proper approach. We should love God. But love is voluntary. So that means that we can choose to love Krishna or not. And if out of foolishness we choose not to, then we end up in this material world. So to get free from birth and death, we simply have to revive the Krishna consciousness, the love of Krishna that is actually natural for everyone. It is not something artificial, it is natural for everyone. But because we have forgotten that, it might seem artificial to us. Just like if you're sick or you have an accident, you may have to lay on the bed for days and weeks at a time. And you start to think as if this is a normal position. But it's not normal. We have to revive our health and get back to our normal situation. So, Krishna consciousness as practiced in this world is the process of reviving our natural dormant love for Krishna. If we hear about Krishna and chant his names, then naturally our attraction for him will revive. So this whole process of Krishna consciousness is to revive our dormant love for Krishna. And if we revive our dormant love for Krishna, then automatically we get free from birth and death. There's no need for performing severe austerities. One should lead a pure life, but there's no need for excessive austerities. So there's an overview of the mechanism of reincarnation and how to get out of this reincarnation machine, which actually we should all be very serious about. If we understand that we are caught in the machine of birth and death and that we're being crushed life after life, we should be very serious to get out of this. It is crass foolishness to theoretically understand and accept this and still continue with a lifestyle that will force us to again and again take birth. So I hope that those of you who have come for the last 2 days have learned about the basics of the mechanism of reincarnation. But simply learning about it won't help us very much. One actually has to incorporate these teachings in one's life. For instance, to give an analogy, you might learn that if you eat healthy foods, vegetarian food, in balanced diet, that you'll get much more healthy than if you go on eating lots of meat and lots of fatty foods, then simply by knowing that there's a more healthy diet, you won't get more healthy unless you actually practice taking the healthy foods. So this knowledge of reincarnation is not supposed to be something for our intellectual titillation, but it is a serious call to focus our life in such a way that we can be free from birth and death. So, Hare Krishna. I'll leave time for questions.
When Krishna tells to Arjuna that he had already given this knowledge to him, and they have already changed their bodies many times. And at the same time, Krishna does not speak about animal reincarnation. So, does that mean? Does Krishna talk about psychological regression?
Entering animal bodies, you mean? Does Krishna speak about entering animal bodies?
Krishna speaks about human bodies, but he doesn't speak about animal bodies.
Well, he does say elsewhere, that verse I quoted, the yang vapi smaran bhavam, one gets a body according to one's consciousness. Elsewhere in Gita he says, urdhvang gachanti sattvastha, those who live in the sattva guna, they go up. One of the major themes of Bhagavad Gita is discussion of the three gunas or modes of nature. So sattva guna is the mode of living in which people lead a very pure life based on spiritual cultivation. Spiritual, yeah. Not religious. Rajoguna is the mode of passion in which one is very frantic for material enjoyment, sense enjoyment. And tamoguna is the mode of darkness in which people have not even any material ambition, what to speak of spiritual ambition. They're lazy, they tend to be intoxicated. So Krishna says, urdhvang gachanti sattvastha. Those in the mode of goodness go up. Madhye gachanti rajasa. Those who madhye tishtanti rajasa. Those who are in the mode of passion, they stay in this middle position. They stay in a middle position. And jaghanya guna vritisto adho gachanti tamasaha. Those in the mode of ignorance, the abominable mode of ignorance, they go down. So Bhagavad Gita is a summary of Vedic knowledge, and it doesn't describe everything in great detail. Elsewhere in the Vedic literature, there are descriptions of the kind of destinations one gets by performing various activities. So animal life, yeah, that's all life. So the soul is present in every living being. So if one lives like an animal, one is born as an animal. Yeah, you had a question? Yeah.
So, Mataji agrees, the lady agrees with you saying that scientists today, they try to make longer our life, and at the same time we see that there are such illnesses, diseases as Alzheimer disease. Mm-hmm. And that means that when you are ill, when you have this disease, you can no more continue your spiritual practice. You cannot execute your spiritual duties. That means that you have to work. You have to work quickly on your spiritual path. Yes.
Old age is coming, so before that, one should take up spiritual life. Don't think, let me wait until I'm 99 years old, and then. You said that scientists are working to make our lives longer. There are probably many more scientists working on making devices to kill us all than there are working on making our lives longer. Why aren't they working to stop death? There's research to stop cancer. There's research to stop AIDS. There's not much research to stop malaria, even though many people die that many years, every year, but they're mostly in poor countries and they can't afford to spend lots of money on pharmaceuticals. So the pharmaceutical companies don't bother to research that. But why is there no research to stop death? That means they accept that they cannot stop it. Actually, most people, they never live. They're like living dead. Most people are zombies. What is a zombie? It's supposed to be a dead body that's come to life. But this body is dead. Your body is dead. This body is only chemicals. There's no life in it. So if we think, I am this body, we are identifying with dead chemicals. That means we're all zombies. So the president of France is the number one zombie, the head of 50 million zombies. We don't know what is life. We can stop death. Chant Hare Krishna. You won't die. You won't die, you'll come alive for the first time after millions of births. Of course, the body will die, but for a devotee of Krishna, that just means release from this body to go to the spiritual world, to live eternally. So don't be a zombie. Chant Hare Krishna. Go to the spiritual world. You can live in the spiritual world now. If we're always absorbed in thought of Krishna, then we're not in Paris. What is Paris? It's just another city among many cities in this little earth planet. People congregate to work hard and get money so they can enjoy their senses. But if we live in Paris and we understand that I have no intrinsic connection with all this madness going on around me, This body is temporary. The building I'm living in is temporary. Temporary means at one time it didn't exist, and after some time it will also not exist. So Paris is also temporary. France is also temporary. The earth is also temporary. The whole universe is also temporary. But I am eternal. Krishna is eternal. My eternal relationship is with Krishna. Then we don't live in this illusion called Paris. I know Parisians are very proud of this illusion called Paris. But that pride is just another symptom of our foolishness. Yeah.
Lady, is concerned. As far as a person who commits a suicide is concerned, is it the same process of reincarnation as for those who die?
Natural death. Those who commit suicide, they become ghosts. That is sinful activity. Ghost means they live in a subtle body, but not a gross body. They still identify with the gross body, which has already killed. Of course, respectable people in the modern age are not supposed to believe in ghosts. But all cultures all over the world since time immemorial, and even today, report that there are ghosts. So suicide is not a good idea.
I would like to know how simple is the relationship with Krishna. So for example, like we say that we have Atma and the Super Soul Paramatma, it always stays within us, within everybody.
He always stays with us, not it.
So he always stays with us, and then he exists everywhere. His energies exist everywhere. So can a simple human being or an animal or a plant who has that consciousness, can they talk with Krishna? Can they love them? And when they love them, how can we understand that we are connected with him? Is there a way to understand that yes, we are connected with him, with Krishna?
Can we talk with Krishna? Sure. It wouldn't be much of a relationship if you can't talk with someone. There's not much meaning to loving someone if you can't talk with them. But we have to become qualified to re-enter that relationship. So we start talking with Krishna by saying Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How can we understand we have a relationship with Krishna? First by hearing about it. Gradually we can enter into it. But as long as we are desiring to enjoy this material world, we're not qualified to speak with Krishna. So purification of consciousness is required. That also comes by chanting Hare Krishna. Yes. There's some other question? We need a, what's that called? Cordless microphone? Well, it's probably a lot better than my French. So, you're doing better than me in that regard.
He's actually selling materialism.
We are not Buddhists. We are interested in understanding what is reality, what is truth. So what is reality? Do you know what is reality? To live. Yeah. So you're breathing and talking in that body, but the breathing and talking of that body will end with the body. So we should know that reality is more than the present body that we're presently in.
Sir says that there is nothing after our death.
You're sure? You're a great authority on this?
No, he says that he is not an authority. He is an authority of nothing.
Yeah, but then you just spoke in a very authoritative way that there's nothing after death. You made an absolute statement. There is nothing after death.
I'm sorry, he said that we do not know what happens after death.
You don't know? Are you sure that everybody doesn't know?
He said that as far as I'm concerned, I do not know what happens after death.
But then you should find out. Better you find out. Because you don't know doesn't mean that everybody doesn't know.
Sir says that he had never met anyone who would tell him about his previous life or about what happens after one's death.
Well, I've been doing it here for the last 2 days. What makes you think that you... what is the meaning of that statement? That I'm not dead? How do you know I didn't come back from previous life? Do you understand that there is a previous life? Is the only way to acquire knowledge by personal experience? Actually, we covered all these points in the last 2 days. How far away is the sun from the earth? Well, we're told that. All right, let's try now something. How far away is the moon? Do you know how far away the moon is? Something. What is the capital of China? Let's say.
Quelle est la capitale de la Chine? Pékin.
Yeah. Okay. How do you know? Beijing. How do you know? Have you been there? So how do you know it's the capital of China?
Everyone says, and you can find this on the.
But you don't have personal experience.
Mais vous n'avez pas d'expérience personnelle.
You've learned from others.
Vous avez appris cela en écoutant les autres.
So to say that you have to say that I haven't come back from a previous life, therefore I can't know. No, I have received knowledge from others. You can also learn from others.
Who are these authorities?
Authorities are those who have learned from other authorities. That Peking is the capital, or Beijing is the capital of China, is a widely known and understood fact. It's not very difficult to understand. Subjects which are more difficult to understand may be understood by only a few people. Now, just like for instance, Einstein gave the formula E equals mc squared. What does that mean? Energy equals mass times what? Something squared? Yeah. Okay, so everyone's heard it, but Einstein and a few other people understand what it means. Now that because only a few people comprehend it doesn't mean that it's not true. Because only a few people comprehend it doesn't mean that it's not true. The rest of us accept it because it's given by who we trust to be competent authorities. So what happens after death is really the most important thing that we have to understand.
Do you understand this subject matter? Because Sir says that himself personally he does not understand it properly.
Well, do I understand?
Est-ce que je le comprends ou non?
Do I understand this subject matter? Yes, I would say I understand the mechanics of it, how it works. And maybe you can ask others who have been here for 2 days if they think I understand it. I understand it because I've studied it, I've lived it. You can also understand. But if you take as an axiom that after death there's nothing, then you can't understand. In the last 2 days here, in the last 2 days here, I've given a lot of reasons by which we can understand that when the body dies, we continue to exist. So I think it's a little unfair of you to come in without listening to all of this.
That is why he said from the very beginning he said that maybe you should not start explaining the subject matter from the very beginning.
I should not?
From the very beginning,
Someone
he
has
said
another
maybe
question.
you may not. And the question is if one can choose his next life, his next birth. La question est la suivante: est-ce qu'on peut choisir sa vie suivante, son corps, sa famille?
At every moment we're choosing our next birth, because the way we act and the way we mold our thoughts mold our future existence. But why be concerned with our next birth? Why one birth? We may have thousands, millions of births. It goes on and on and on and on and on. So sometime you may be a great god or goddess in the heavens. Sometimes you may be a maggot in the garbage. I said garbage. Okay. Excrement is also more graphic. And sometimes you may be, someone walking the streets of Paris trying to get enough money to pay their bills. So we should be concerned not what is our next birth in the material world, but what is our position in the spiritual world. To think what I will be in the next life in this material world, it's the wrong aspiration.
We can also choose to live in Krishna's family. to become his mother or somewhere else who is close to him.
Yeah.
Et comme Monsieur a dit, on peut choisir la famille de Krishna, on peut naître dans sa famille et on peut devenir soit sa mère, soit quelqu'un qui lui est proche.
Yeah.
What is the connection between three gunas of material energy and our subtle body?
Well, the subtle body, we become attached to various gunas within material nature, and then the subtle body that carries us to another gross body. The subtle body is man, buddhi, ahankar, means mind, intelligence, and false ego. So people tend to fall in three categories. Their ahankar, or their sense of identification with themselves, is either sattvic, which means in the mode of purification, or rajasic in the mode of passion, or tamasic in the mode of darkness. So as we become attached to various modes, then the modes act on us. It's all described in Bhagavad Gita. In some detail it's described. I don't mind if I can go on speaking if others want to ask questions. Yeah. No, already there's a question from here and then this. Yeah, you.
I just wanted to know that can we be friends with Krishna without going into the details of the Church and Vedas? Is this possible?
Can we have a relationship with Krishna, be a friend with Krishna without going to the Vedas and the scriptures? Well, that's the way Krishna, that's what Krishna gives us to help us approach him. He gives us the Vedic knowledge by which we can become free from illusion and situated in our proper position. Proper position, constitutional position. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yashastra vidimutsrija vartate kamakarataha nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukam na param gatim. Krishna says that one who doesn't want to follow the scripture, who just wants to act in his own way, in the way he likes, he cannot attain perfection, he cannot attain happiness, and he cannot attain the ultimate goal of life. And the ultimate goal of life, param gatim. So you may say, well, I want to do it my way, but Krishna's the boss and you have to do it his way.
If there is a small kid staying in some small village in Africa, where there is no stresses of Gita or Veda, and if she prays to God, she doesn't know Krishna, but she has the same feeling when I pray to Krishna and she prays to a God.
A child in Africa may pray to God, and you may pray to God, and they have a feeling for God. So that's very nice. That's a natural inclination of the living being to pray to God. That's a pious inclination. But that does not constitute pure love of God. For that, one will have to have the good fortune, which is acquired after lifetimes of piety, that one can come in contact with those who can teach one about the actual process to approach Krishna, as given in the Vedic literature. One has to become completely free from kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mada, matsarya, lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, and illusion. So that requires training according to a standard process. You may feel in my heart I have great love for God, but you're not free from all these bad qualities. So it cannot be considered pure love of God. Yeah, this question here first. You have many questions. It's an important subject, isn't it? Hey, listen. I think you have to start again because you weren't listening.
The question is the following. We see that there are two kinds of people in our modern world. There are those who are spiritually advanced and who cultivate detachment or renunciation. And at the same time, there are common people who work for some company, who have their families, and who live just like ordinary people. So is it possible for those who live like common people to have any spiritual advancement?
Well, we're all ordinary. But if we take up Krishna consciousness, then we become extraordinary. Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, who is a married man with a job. And actually Arjuna wanted to leave his job and retire and become a monk. Krishna told him not to. Krishna told him to go on with what he was doing, but to think of Krishna while he was doing that. So anyone in any situation can become Krishna conscious. Some adjustments would require to be made. Most people are accustomed to sleeping until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. That's not very favorable for spiritual advancement. Rising early is better. Then no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. These are required if one is going to make spiritual advancement. And one will have to spend time every day performing activities that are directly Krishna conscious, especially chanting the name of Krishna. You want to explain about chanting japa? You can explain.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
So, if you want to know more about all the practicality of it, then you can be in contact. You can leave your... Yeah. Oh, okay. One more question. There does come a point at which we have to stop going, not just asking questions, but we have to actually start practicing. Okay, one quickie. Okay. All right. So let's have a little practical then. We can chant with singing.